7 Foods You Should Never Eat, Part 3. Number 7. Canned tomatoes. Now, I know what you all must be thinking. Canned tomatoes? Tomatoes are good for us. They're a very healthy and delicious fruit that is loved by people all over the world. And that is true. There is nothing wrong with tomatoes. However, the shocking truth is that when you put tomatoes in a can, they can potentially become dangerous for our health. The issue here lies with the chemical used to coat the lining of cans, BPA. Now, BPA is used in most cans and plastic products, and it's not really a big problem for most of them. However, canned tomatoes are highly acidic. The acidity draws out more of the BPA from the lining, ultimately ending up in the food products we consume. The shocking reality is that most of us probably have been exposed to some level of BPA. A survey conducted by the Center for Disease Control found detectable levels of BPA in 93% of urine samples tested. Low levels of BPA are nothing to worry about, but high exposure can lead to scary things like hormonal disruption, reproductive harm, increased risk of certain cancers, sperm defects, and many other conditions. Number 6. White chocolate. Here's a surprising fact for you. Chocolate can actually be really healthy for you. Generally, the darker the chocolate, the more nutritious and healthy it is. Anything containing 70% or more cacao is pretty good for your health. Darker chocolate can be a source of antioxidants, improve blood flow, lower blood pressure, and it might even help to reduce your risk of heart disease. However, most other types of chocolate really aren't that great for you. Most contain far too much sugar and fat. Possibly the worst chocolate is white chocolate. Now, white chocolate is so bad for you because it contains the smallest amount of cacao, which is the healthy ingredient. White chocolate has higher levels of sugar, which is obviously not great for your health, but it also has much higher levels of butter and milk. Dairy products like butter and milk are incredibly high in fat, and more specifically, saturated fat, which could result in higher blood pressure and a higher risk of heart disease. So if you're going to have some chocolate, always try to go for the darkest chocolate you can find. Number 5. Cooking oil. Over the last 100 years or so, we in the West have drastically increased our consumption of highly processed foods. Things like sugar, salt, and oil can be found in almost every processed food we eat. Most of us probably already know that too much sugar and salt can be bad for our health, but not everyone knows that cooking oils are really not very good for us. Most cooking oils are incredibly high in saturated fat and trans fats, which when consumed at the levels of a standard Western diet can dramatically increase your risk of heart disease, some forms of cancer, stroke, and even type 2 diabetes. So it's always good advice to try and minimize your consumption of processed foods and also try to limit your use of cooking oil at home. Number 4. Agave Nectar, or sometimes known as agave syrup. Now, for those of you that haven't heard of agave nectar, it is often touted as a healthier, more natural alternative to sugar. But the reality is that it's just not true. Agave nectar is just as bad, if not worse for you than normal sugar, as it has the highest fructose content of almost any commercial sweetener. Not to mention the fact that it's also much, much, much more expensive. Number 3. Canned green beans. Another food on this list that you would presume is actually very healthy. But when you look into it, you're shocked to find out the truth. Canned green beans grown in the United States are consistently contaminated with some of the most dangerous pesticides, according to Consumer Reports. 1 serving a day of canned green beans could put consumers at a high risk due to the toxicity of pesticides typically used on that crop. Reportedly, eating 1 serving of canned green beans from the US is 200 times riskier than eating a similar serving of any other US-grown vegetable like broccoli. Number 2. White bread. Bread is often characterized as unhealthy, but the reality is a little more complex than that. Not all bread is bad for you. In fact, some breads, like whole grain, can actually be quite nutritious, delicious, and healthy. The real issue with bread is white and high-processed bread. Nutritionists often describe products like this as essentially empty calories. They offer little to no nutritional value for your body and all rapidly spike your blood sugar levels once consumed. A little bit of white bread here and there won't hurt. But if you have the choice, it's probably best to pick a nice, hearty, whole grain bread. Number 1. Dairy products. Now, most of us were told as children that dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt were healthy and even crucial to a balanced diet. It was, and still is for most people, normal to consume dairy products every day, no matter where you stand on the issue. I think almost everyone can admit that dairy products like cheese and ice cream are very delicious foods. But as we spend more time scientifically researching nutrition, we start to see that perhaps dairy isn't the health food we were all once led to believe it was. Over recent years, a bountiful array of rather robust nutritional and scientific literature has come out linking dairy to a rather long list of quite undesirable conditions and diseases. In the United States, Europe, and other developed countries, heart disease is the number 1 killer. It is the thing we all are most likely to die from. Many things can cause heart disease, but saturated fat is without a doubt the leading cause. And what product is absolutely crammed full of saturated fat? Dairy. The saturated fat in dairy products raise your cholesterol, which drastically increases your risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes, which could lead to your untimely demise. But it's not all heart disease you need to worry about. Dairy products are linked to a very long list of truly undesirable conditions. For example, there is evidence between dairy and cancer, especially breast cancer in women. Another worrying point is the link between cow's milk consumption and hormonal imbalances in our bodies. There is also data showing how dairy consumption can actually block our body's ability to absorb beneficial nutrients from other foods we consume. One truly crazy fact about dairy is that an estimated 75% of the world's adult population is unable to break down lactose. Now, lactose is the main carbohydrate found in dairy. Lactose intolerance is extremely common throughout Africa, Asia, and South America. Dairy consumption can also affect things like eczema. One study showed that if you cut out eggs, dairy, and fish, you are significantly less likely to have eczema, even in later years. Acne is also a real problem, especially for teenagers. A Harvard nurses study found an association between high school dairy intake and severe physician-diagnosed acne. Now, I could go on and on, detailing the countless studies linking dairy products with a truly wide array of medical conditions and diseases that you probably don't want and never want. Anyway, that is it for this video. Please do let me know in the comments what you think, and make sure to remember to hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.